So my name is Todd Gloria. I'm running for San Diego City Mayor. I'm running as a third-generation San Diegan who knows where our city has been. As the son of a maid and a gardener, meaning I'm from a family that knows how hard it is to make ends meet in a town as expensive as San Diego. And importantly, as someone who has a vision for where I'd like to take our city. I think that for too long, we are a big city that's acted like a small town. And as a result, we have an exploding homelessness crisis. We have a lack of a world-class transportation system necessary to bolster our economy. And probably most importantly, we don't have housing that working and middle-class people can afford. I want to be a mayor that leads on those issues, that causes us to embrace the fact that we're the 8th largest city in the United States and tackles real problems by bringing people together on real solutions. I want to bring my experiences as a city council member, a council president, interim mayor and state assembly member back to City Hall to make sure that we defeat the pandemic, stabilize our economy, and move our city forward.
Hi, I'm Barbara Brie. I'm a candidate for mayor. I currently represent District 1 on the San Diego City Council. Before I ran for public office in 2016, I was a small business owner in the technology sector. I served on many nonprofit boards, and I started 2 organizations that empower women. I'm also a wife, a mom, and a grandma. The big news in our family is that we're going to have 4 more grandchildren by March. I'm running for mayor because it is so important right now to lead an inclusive economic recovery that helps all of our communities. And I believe that my business background, the fact that I've started businesses and worked in the private sector, is very important in helping to turn our city around. As mayor, my top 3 priorities will be leading an inclusive economic recovery, addressing homelessness, and addressing housing so that we have housing that working families can afford. Of course, one of the major risks right now is COVID-19 and ensuring that we have a safe recovery that allows people to get back to work, that allows our children to go back to school. Major risk to the city is that our revenues are declining substantially because of the drop in hotel tax revenue and sales tax revenue. And this will impact the city's ability to deliver neighborhood services. As mayor, my priority is to deliver quality neighborhood services, to eliminate the bloated middle management at City Hall, and to finally address the 101 Ash Street debacle, which is costing our taxpayers over $10 million a year.
So the top priority, of course, is to defeat COVID-19. And that's going to be a challenge. Without strong federal leadership, it's left to cities and states to do the heavy lifting. And I'm prepared to do exactly that, to make sure that we can reopen our economy in a safe fashion, making sure that we don't see a continued whipsaw of opening and closing, of people becoming infected and getting better. After that, of course, is our economy. Too many San Diegans are out of work across our community, but particularly in certain neighborhoods, particularly communities of color. We need to have a reopening strategy and an economic stimulus plan that focuses on Black and brown communities, utilizing an equity lens and making sure that those who are most impacted are most helped by our limited city resources. And even before this twin crisis of a pandemic and an economic crisis, we have had a housing and homelessness crisis. And we must remember that we had that before this, it's happening right now, and it is likely to be worse because of these multiple challenges. I'm going to be a mayor that says that if you're willing to work hard and play by the rules, there'll be a place for you here in this community, and that means a roof over every head at a price that someone can afford. I also think that we have to be a community that makes a commitment to ending chronic homelessness. Other cities across the United States have done that. Our city should be able to do that too. I have long treasured the relationship I have with San Diego's Vietnamese community. From my first election to the City Council and the honor of representing City Heights, I've been able to establish a strong relationship with this community to work together to find progress that we need to strengthen this neighborhood. That starts with working with the Little Saigon Foundation to establish, as a City Council member, the Little Saigon District right here on El Cajon Boulevard. And that's continued in the state legislature when I worked with Caltrans to make sure that our freeways in the area have signage to direct customers to the businesses in Little Saigon. I'm going to continue to build on that relationship, making sure that we are focused on the number of things that I think are important to the Vietnamese community. As I know the community, I know that education is so very important. And as a mayor, I may not have direct responsibility for public education, but you will never hear me say that that's not my problem. You cannot build a great city without great public schools, and I'll be one who is deeply involved in it, recognizing that a city education school board connection is one of the best ways that we can lift up our community and make sure our students, particularly our Vietnamese American students, have the skills they need to compete in the 21st century economy. And after that, economic development comes to mind. Recognizing that here on El Cajon Boulevard, we have a lot of work still left to do to make sure that the city is helping the businesses that have long been thriving in this community to continue to thrive, to grow, and really improve the little Saigon district that we've all envisioned having here. I think going forward, every member of our community, including the Vietnamese community, understands what it is to struggle to make the rent at the first of the month, and too often can't foresee being able to buy a home in this city. I believe that if you're willing to work hard, you should have a place in this city, and that includes our Vietnamese community. So working with this community, I hope that we can make sure that we're building housing, not any kind of housing, but the housing that regular working people can afford to buy, to own, and to rent, and that's going to be a collaborative effort, not to advance gentrification, but to make sure that people can actually invest in this community, buy a home, build wealth, raise a family, have a successful business. I think these multiple priorities of education, economic development, and housing would spell success for our local Vietnamese community.
As a city council member, I have voted to support infrastructure investment in city heights, including in the libraries and the parks and the recreation centers, and to use some of our federal stimulus money for small business assistance, particularly sole proprietorships, which should help restaurants and hair and nail salons in the Vietnamese community. The pandemic has made it clear that we have a digital divide, that we have many issues with language accessibility. I am developing a plan for universal internet access. Everybody needs it today, for shopping, for healthcare, for learning, for social interaction. And the Vietnamese community needs to have access to understand in their own language what the changing rules and regulations are regarding COVID and other government issues as they come along. As a council member, I have already voted to support federal stimulus money being used for small business assistance. I've asked the state to provide direct housing relief to individuals who are impacted by COVID, and I will continue these policies as mayor. As mayor, I will also focus on growing our innovation economy, which creates high-paying jobs and good service sector jobs around them. If we have a thriving innovation economy, businesses like nail salons and restaurants will thrive because people will have the income to go there. This is the world I come out of. And my office as mayor will include a school engagement coordinator, which will develop relationships with employers and the schools, so that starting from a young age, children will understand the job opportunities available to them, and as they get older, they will have access to paid internships. And this will grow the San Diego economy for the long term.
So I'm not waiting until I'm the mayor of San Diego to dive into the issue of how we can make sure small businesses can survive this pandemic. I've convened a Back to Work SD task force led by Congressman Scott Peters and Paula Avila, who is the binational coordinator for our local Chamber of Commerce, to make sure that we have strategies in place on day one to help rebuild our economy and to rebuild it back better. I think front of mind for the small business community is the understanding that the city of San Diego spends hundreds of millions of dollars annually in contracts. And right now, those can go to the lowest bidder. What I would recommend is that we do it for best value, meaning to say that we spend as much of that money locally in small businesses and minority-owned and women-owned businesses as possible, to be able to get the services that we need as a city, but to invest those dollars in our actual neighborhoods, making sure that these small businesses are supported and that they're creating jobs that San Diegans can fill. I think after that, the limited funds that we have in the city need to be concentrated where the areas of unemployment are the highest. And we recognize that across the city, we have north of 15% unemployment, but that there are neighborhoods in this community, neighborhoods like this one, where the unemployment is closer to 20%, sometimes more. And so concentrating our limited resources in these neighborhoods to make sure that they are sharing in the recovery is really important. I think lastly, as an immediate idea, is that we have to make sure that this is an ongoing effort that does not stop. This will not end as soon as we have a vaccine. The economy will take some time to rebuild. And so whatever we're doing can't be one-offs. It has to be a long-term commitment to these communities. I think that while this is a horribly tragic situation, this is also an opportunity to make sure that our city rethinks how it does its work, and that it does it with a notion of the fact that every community should be doing business with the city, that every community should benefit from city business. And that is not currently the case, but that is the goal that I would have if elected mayor. Yes, I would. For my time on the city council, I've worked frequently in this community to draw additional investment to create community benefits. Everything from a new fire station to improved park and recreation facilities to more affordable housing. And I would take that experience and try and help the community realize this dream. Some ideas that come to mind for how we can be partners in this effort would be to try to identify city-owned property in the community that would make an appropriate site for a senior center, partner with a nonprofit community partner to try and build on that particular site. Or we could ask those who want the opportunity to build in City Heights to ask them to consider accommodating this as a part of their overall development. One way or the other, I believe that we can bring people together to achieve this goal, one that is worthy, one that is seen in other parts of our city. Other neighborhoods have neighborhood-specific senior centers. I think that City Heights should have one as well, and I believe there are ways that we can accomplish that together.
So I think it's very exciting that Viet Vote wants to create a community center in the City Heights area. As mayor, I will work with the group to first identify a location and then to identify appropriate funding. For example, community development block grants could be one source of important funding for this type of effort. I think whatever we do in San Diego to recognize all the unique cultures we have in our city, it's part of what makes San Diego so special. And to preserve these cultural identities is something I will focus on as mayor.